Hey team, welcome to the Builders Ladder podcast that the top residential building company owners and general contractors listen to get their business ahead and buy back their time while earning more money. Here's what's in store today.
Which is we should look at packages, not pay slips. And what I mean by that is people come on payment plans, and payment plans have their own terms as well.
The Builders Ladder is brought to you by The Professional Builder. Get proven systems and expert coaching to reclaim your time, make more profit, and build a systemized, profitable company that buys back your freedom.
Welcome back to the Builders Ladder podcast. Vinnie Vecchio here, head of coaching for The Professional Builder, joined by my boss, Owen. How you doing?
What's up, brother?
Good to see you, man. Good to see you in Auckland as well. How's the week been so far?
It's been awesome, man. Like hanging out with the leadership team, brains trust, solving problems. It's kind of like exactly the reason that we're talking about today's topic, which is who to hire and what to pay them. Because ultimately, you know, that's the game of business, right? It's like it's the people, it's the process, it's the profits, it's the product and the service, making sure that it's all tidied up, dialed in. So yeah, man, it's been a great week. How good was that, sweet and sour pork?
No, I was going to say the opposite.
You didn't like it?
No, it's sitting funny in my belly at the moment.
Right.
But
I was good on it.
I was more happy with the Italian food on Monday. Maybe that's more about my blood though. But
yeah, the red wine was good.
Yeah, no, but that's all good. Let's kick this off. So I think we can start with like a few key lessons around this, or a few key principles to go by. And then we'll roll into who to hire next and when. So first off, I think like a really important thing to know is, and this is just like a mindset that we would run through with members around this, because like who to hire when and what to pay them. So a few things, I think we can look at this in like a 3-step process initially.
Yep.
And the first thing is to have the end in sight. So like what is the vision? What's the actual org chart going to look like that's going to serve your end game business? Yep. And whatever that is, like is that a $10 million building company? Is that just a well-systemized $3 million building company? Is it just a company that runs really nicely without you, that holidays, etc.? Like you want to know what that team structure looks like first.
Yep.
Secondly, you want to then understand the golden ratios as a residential building company owner. So obviously 20 to 25% gross profit margin is where you should be at as a residential builder. Then operating expenses, or OPEX, should be around 8 to 12% of total revenue. And then that should leave you a net profit of 10 to 15. And so when you make your hires, you want to align that focus and keep your overheads around that range, because if it's more than 12%, you're probably running your business too heavy, and it could just take you one labor overrun or just one variation not captured that can cause you to be in the negatives.
Totally.
And third thing is, I would recommend having a cash flow forecast in place to align all these hires that you're going to make, and to understand that if you, let's just say, plug in an office manager to hire them 3 months in the future, then you can actually plug that into your numbers, and you can see, does that align with the golden ratios? Are you going to be overspending your business, or are you not? And then you can make really informed financial decisions around that. So I think just like from a baseline standpoint, if you have that in place, then everything else we do from this session will make a lot more sense. But that's just like some real baseline foundations that I would recommend we all put in place before we even consider making a hire, etc.
Yep, correct. And just lastly on that third point around like the cash flow and lining it all up, as your business grows, ideally the revenue, it never will, but ideally it traces a relatively stable line up, right? So it traces a relatively stable line up. Your gross profit should run relative parallel to it, so it should also come up, but your net profit is going to go peak, trough, ideally trending upwards. But what we're trying to do is, by setting a cash flow forecast, setting a business maturity date, we want to shorten the gap between troughs. Okay,
right.
So like low profit points or net profit points. If we can see what the gap is going to be, and try and compress that gap as much as possible, then we have the confidence to invest into the business. Because again, should trend like that, and then net profit might be, high, low, high, low. We want to know what's going to take to go between the two troughs and get back to a peak sort of thing. So 100%. And compressing that with a BMD, knowing your ratios, all of this is really important.
Yeah.
So let's go through kind of like the meat and potatoes of it.
Yeah. So we can probably talk about like levels first. So like, because obviously there might be builders that have literally just started out, all the way from builders doing $10 million or plus listening to this podcast. So your first few hires, if you were just starting your building company from scratch, who are the first 3 you would have on your team?
Well, you want to look at it through the replacement ladder, okay? So what we don't want to do is we do this exercise called the fun skills matrix, okay? So you end up with tasks that are high fun, low skill, low fun, low skill, high fun, or high skill, low fun, and high skill, low fun, well, whatever. Like, what's the
like
matrix? Yeah, it's I'm jet lagged and it's late in the week for me. So the point is, what we're really looking to do with your first few hires is to de-risk it by finding people that can execute repeating and recurring tasks at low dollar an hour rates.
Awesome.
So while most people will fall into the trap of wanting to hire a project manager, an estimator, that in some instances may be the best route, but it's actually quite a high risk route because they're highly paid and they're highly nuanced. They're not repeating and recurring tasks. Versus instead, they should be hiring somebody that's doing like accounts reconciliation, receivables, debtors, payables, setting up and doing the like marketing coordination, sales administration, contracts administration, tasks that repeat and recur on either a weekly, a monthly, or a stage of project basis. So, and these people are also cheaper to find and to pay hourly. You can even find many of them as offshore talent that we've spoken about in other podcasts. So we want to de-risk your first few hires by looking at it through a couple of these lenses of like, what are the repeating and recurring tasks and the cheaper, lower risk people that I can bring onto the team versus the higher risk, more expensive people. Because if like a QS or a project manager, you've hired incorrectly there, then you've potentially really cocked stuff up. Versus if you hire incorrectly on your marketing coordinator, you've cocked up 4 Instagram posts, whatever. Like,
it's a good way to look at it. So like low consequence, low risk, basically hires. I wanted to point out, because obviously when you said like accounts and you know collections and all that, a bookkeeper is probably the first person as well that you'd want to have on your team. And I'm laughing in a way, in a good way as well, because the coaching team especially, they always come to me and it's like, we cannot believe how many people can sometimes come into this program, and we're talking maybe, you know, from the startup phase doing under 500K to even up from 5 mil plus, that don't have a strong financial team in place.
Yeah.
Like they don't have a good accountant. And when I say good accountant, like one that actually understands construction.
Dude, how many times do we see the P&Ls set up incorrectly?
That too.
Like stuff down in the expense column that should be up in the cost of goods column, like materials and labor on site. It's like, dude, come on.
Even worse when you can't even see the COGS column at all. So it just shows 100% GP.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, like 100% what you're saying. So the first lens you want to look at it through is like repeating and recurring tasks, low dollar. A caveat or a little like mind map off that is you got to remember, people come on payment plans. So you don't pay people's salary on day one of their time with us. You pay them weekly, monthly, and they can actually start cash flowing themselves usually pretty quickly and return on an investment for themselves. So it's kind of sounds like kind of nasty, but people come on a payment plan.
Yeah.
The other thing that you want to consider as well is what's going to buy back your time most. So we've spoken ad nauseum in other episodes about how like the most important currency for a business owner is momentum and mojo. So you know, cash flow is king, you know, profit is prince, but momentum is emperor, right? And we want to make sure that you're in flow, and you can't be in flow as the business owner if you're stuck down in the weeds. So the only caveat to you should hire low risk people is if you are genuinely spending all of your time estimating, then maybe we should look at buying back your time. Okay. I would just want to go with somebody like an agency or a professional that we basically poach from somebody that comes with pre-packaged solutions that has done it before and that is going to require almost zero time to get up to speed on, and that we've got a high confidence and conviction that they're going to knock it out of the park. That would be the only caveat to that sort of framework, is like what's going to buy you back the most amount of time. But usually we can buy back a huge amount of time by finding an EA, PA, office manager, contract administrator, marketing and sales coordinator, and all these sorts of things.
It's just a simple quote: systemize the repeatables. So if you're doing something all the time, you always send the exact same email, you always do something in a certain way, you always log into the account a certain way, it will be very easy to plug that and document it into a process.
Yep.
hire someone to do that. Congratulations, you've now created a system.
Yes.
That's exactly what it is. You've got a who and you've got a how.
Yep.
And as you're saying, from a low risk, relatively low cost and payment plan standpoint, if you're in that startup phase or under 1 mil, that's probably where you want to look at essentially as well.
100%. So usually, let's cut right to the chase. Level 1, the first couple of people that you want to hire is going to be somebody that's a 2IC or a key person on site, so you can leave some of the sites. So that's usually going to be like a foreman, a qualified guy. Next is going to be, or at the same time, is going to be a bookkeeper, somebody to help you with the financial visibility. And lastly, it's going to be like an office manager or sales and marketing manager / coordinator / admin and an accounts manager, like somebody to take care of some of the day-to-day operations and runnings of your office, because I don't know many builders that were put on this earth to send invoices, do emails.
No.
It's just not their core.
Especially not at 7 p.m. at night.
No, 100%. You should be like hanging out with your significant other, your family, yourself, your kids, really doing what lights you up.
1,000%. I think the next part, as you just already touched on it, because I think once they've made those hires, they've got a foreman in place, they've got a bookkeeper, they've got an office manager.
They've bought back their time. Think of it as a replacement ladder.
Yep.
You've kind of like foundationally hired, and now it's time to you've taken on that fun skills matrix, you've taken all the low fun, low skill tasks out of your world. Now we're going to look at the low fun, high skill tasks, and we're going to try and get rid of those next. And that's usually things like pricing and estimating, project management, right? Running around sites, picking up materials, dealing with that crap. For some people, it then becomes like foremans, things like that. So it depends how you structure your team, but that's what we're normally looking at next.
Yeah. And I think this is the one that they're going to be spending most of their time on now, because as you said, most of the other parts of the business are operating with those first 3 hires. And so with the estimating, there's basically like 4 options that you have, and you can probably look at it from a lens of like high effort but high reward versus low effort, low reward, meaning like doing it yourself means you have the most effort and the reward's okay too. The next one would be like a virtual assistant estimator, which again, you'll probably need to teach them a fair bit around, like, let's just say if you're in Australia, you would need to teach them about Australian cost codes. If you're in New Zealand, same thing. But still, like, that could be a good way to buy back your time and have less effort.
It's your it's your company's obligation to document the system and have a process for that. So, if you've got a real bulletproof process, you can go and find talent that might be a bit cheaper. If you don't have a process for that, then you probably need to basically buy that process by hiring somebody that's very expensive.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the next point. Is then you got outsourcing, which could probably work for most people because you've got a qualified person. The only caveat to that is they're not completely bought into your business just yet. You'll need to buy them into that in the sense of like, do they actually understand your financial targets? Do they, as you said in the last podcast, do they price it to win the job or do they price it to actually make a profit for the builder?
Yeah.
And then finally is you have an in-house estimator, which ideally brings all the skills, all the experience, all the templates that removes literally that entire task for you. And they simply just report to you, here's what I've done, here's what I haven't, etc.
Yep, totally.
So that's probably the 4 lenses you can look through.
And what I'd normally do is I'd normally want to start at either end of those and work towards the middle.
Nice.
Okay, so what we're normally looking for is we're either looking to like acqui-hire, so find somebody that's a couple of steps ahead of us.
Nice.
Doing the job for a business that we want to replicate. We want to bring them onto the team. They're going to come with preloaded solutions, pre-packaged solutions. They're going to come with experience and they're going to have been doing it for a level above where we're at today.
Nice.
Or we're going to go and we're going to really focus on the process, bulletproof the process, and then find somebody at a much more affordable rate, either as a graduate or as offshore talent.
It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
I think actually probably a lesson that we look at though, if you are doing it yourself, you're actually in like the best opportunity to start documenting and systemizing what you're currently doing.
Totally.
Like literally you're like, cause then you don't have to you don't have to work twice. Like as you're doing the task, as you're pricing your next project, set up screen share and Loom videos that you can record yourself actioning these things and then document it as you go. You can even plug into AI and say like, here's my step-by-step. And that way, because you're documenting it, instead of retraining someone on that, going through that process one at a time, it's just like, hey, watch this video of me pricing the last project, of me back costing the last project. And then they can already, like 80% of it's done. It's already like,
dude, and the best way to do that is to open up Google Calendar or Outlook Calendar. It doesn't matter, but you should have a calendar for these team members. Build out a custom calendar for that position. So they're going to be estimating jobs on this day for this many hours, or they're going to be setting up sites every morning at this time, or they're going to be coordinating material deliveries on these days. We want to build a relative task list into a calendar. Then in the calendar time, so let's say they are doing a daily roundup at the end of every day from 4:55 to 5:30. Okay, for argument's sake.
Nice.
In that calendar slot, if I were to double click into it on the default that you've made, that is where we should host a hyperlink to the system process and a video of you doing the thing to show people exactly what to do. So that as they go through their day, if they need support around that, they can click on the task at that time and then follow the steps on how to do it. Now, they don't need this forever, but it's a great onboarding exercise and a great way for you to think, is this a part-time, full-time, some of the time role? And what's most important? Where should they spend their time? Because show me somebody's calendar and I'll show you the results that they achieve 6 months down the track.
Nice. But it's so efficient though, because instead of getting asked the same questions for every estimate you go through, for example, hey, what's the logins to build a trend? Hey, how do I do this basic thing? It's going to be like they're already going to have more context on how to do it.
Yeah.
And the questions will be a lot more higher level, like, oh, I've tried this and then this didn't happen. It's going to be way more productive for both parties.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. So what's the next level of the replacement ladder?
Well, now that you have that in place, you're probably around a position where you're doing 3+ mil around that range per year as a building company owner. That's probably the stage that you want to look at building a strong management team. Mm-hmm. So a strong project manager or / construction manager.
Yep.
Having a marketing / sales coordinator or manager along those lines. You should already have an office manager leading the way in that side of things too. So basically someone to lead the office, someone to lead the site, someone to lead the pricing, someone lead to the marketing and pipeline essentially.
Yep.
And I think we look at it from that lens. But also with that being said, I think you had a few points at the bottom there which were I think really important to understand around like market rates, growing into the role, bringing experience to the table, because when people are at this level, this is the conversation that needs to happen. You have some good points around this.
So this is like, what should I pay people?
Yeah.
Which is the $1 million question, like quite literally, if you grow a business. Because over a couple of years, or depending on how big you are. So how much did you pay people? Great question. And there's no, honestly, exact right answer to this. So let's break down a couple of considerations that you might want to make. The first is ultimately there's the market rate and then there's your market rate. So what I mean by that is if you suck, hate, and want to jump off a bridge anytime you need to do pricing, it's probably worth a little bit more to you to find somebody to price jobs than you do it. So we might be comfortable to pay a little bit above market rate or find an agency to remove that pain point from your life, because this is your business. We should build a business that you actually enjoy rather than one you hate.
So good.
So the first caveat when thinking about what should I pay people is what's it actually worth to you. Okay. The next is you should still do market research and work out what a typical package is and identify what that is. And that's why the community is so good, because you can ask questions in there, you get a bit of data points and work out in similar markets and what people are paying. The next is if you're scaling somebody into a role, then they're probably not going to come in at market rate, because at market rate, you're paying for experience, right?
That's a good point.
Somebody's been in the game and been working in that role, and they're really a gun at project management or, these kind of projects as a foreman or estimating or marketing, then they're going to come at a relative premium. If I'm scaling somebody new into that role, then I'm not going to pay them the same, because I'm not paying for any experience. I'm giving you the experience, right? So, there's that consideration that people shouldn't be paid quite as much.
On that point, actually, just sparked something that happened in our community. So a member named Matt from Hawke's Bay, New Zealand, he went through...
Such a cool guy, by the way.
Yeah.
Shout out to Matt.
Yeah, absolute weapon. He went through, I think, this exact same process of, being able to hire a project manager.
Yeah.
One that I believe came at a premium, but also came with a shit ton of experience, knowledge, skill set. And I think
it was an area for him that he wasn't he enjoys other parts of the business more.
Right on. Yeah. And like, I think the lesson here is you could either make an addition, which is like you add a team member to a problem or to a part of the business and they will just solve that problem. Or you can look at it from a multiplication or a multiplier standpoint where they are not just bringing the person in, they are bringing the processes, the skills, the experience, and they're actually going to be building things for you, which now means instead of you just still being the leader of the business and moving things one by one, it's actually going to be multiplying and expanding more so.
It's true.
Good lesson to look at.
Yeah. The next consideration is we normally want to not go on percentages, but numbers. So what I mean by that is the worst thing that you can do for some roles is pay them a percentage against the P&L. Because as the business grows, their percentage and their total packet will scale, but ultimately then you're going to blow out the pay scales in relation to the market, and you're going to overpay people for their positions. And that's cool. People should be rewarded if they're absolute weapons and rock stars. But they're also not the ones taking all the risk and the liability of building the homes, and they're not the ones on the director's docket at the end of the day. So they're not taking as much risk as you. So they will cap out. It's just the nature of the being an employee. So we want to not apply salaries against percentages of overhead, but normally against numbers. And that kind of leads me through into the next one, which is we should look at packages, not pay slips. And what I mean by that is people come on payment plans, and payment plans have their own terms as well, right? Yeah. So the person, let's keep math easy. They might want 120 grand. 10 grand a month, okay? How much of that 10 grand a month do you want to be performance pay? Do they back themselves or do they want a high base? How much of that is required to support their key objectives that they might want to achieve? Is it saving for a house? Is it taking the family on holiday? Is it having real stability? Do they want a vehicle as well? How much of that 10K comes in form of a vehicle? Phone? Do you apply and provide additional training? Are they wanting to scale their career? Are you going to provide them with that training? Do they want to learn and be surrounded by other weapons? And we can't afford other weapons if they are on 180 or 150, right? Do they want their nights and weekends and they've moved away from being their own business owner to coming and working for you and just running sites and they hate admin, so we're going to get them a VA or we're going to have an office manager really support them. So their package includes kind of like a PA sort of thing. Like, what does the actual package look like rather than the pay slip? So people look at it just through the pay slip. You should be really looking at it through what is the result or like almost product and service that you're selling to your team, and how can you construct an environment that really benefits them? Like, do they want to have Fridays off so they can build their own speccey on the side, do some cash jobs, like who knows, right? But this is all negotiable. And this is what we should be considering and looking at for the right people, okay? And that's a whole nother conversation around intensity and who fits where and things like that. But for the right person, everything is negotiable. Yeah. And you just need to be a little bit creative around it.
Yeah. Well, that comes back to that point of the 4 Ps, right? So P, like obviously for pay slip or price is one of them, but you want to communicate 3 other Ps. The processes you have to make their life easier, the projects you work on that they can put on their resume, and the people that are around as well. Yeah. And so then there's also the 4 Cs. Do you have the right career progression pathway for them, if that's what they want to do? Do you have the right coaching for them so they can be an absolute weapon and make their life easier? Do you have a great culture and a great community to be able to, so they can enjoy their day-to-day life type of thing? That's what it means to have a package. Yeah. And then also with that being said, how does that stack up against the other offers on the market? It's probably worth seeing like other ads like for the exact same position in your local area. Like, are you actually... Are
you the employer of choice? Yeah. Is there competition?
Yeah. Like, is it attractive or not? Like, would you take that offer type of thing? Or are you just trying to like undercut someone and just get... Because I will guarantee you'll probably get a B player, not an A grade player if you do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's where people often mistakenly only market for projects and not for people. Their marketing should be a storefront for great projects and jobs, but also great prospects of team members as well, because that's a great competitive advantage to have, to be the employer of choice and have the best crew. Because people, ultimately, you don't grow your business, your team do. They install the you install the systems, and systems run the business, and the people run those systems. And it's our job to find people that can come in and run the systems, iterate and improve on them, so you can have an epic company.
Happy days.
Yeah.
Any final words?
Now let's land this plane. So if you're after a job description, we can give that away. Okay. So if you want a framework for a great job description that you can apply for or any of these positions to hire, whether it be honestly like a PM all the way down to an apprentice, then download that below and swipe and deploy it. It's worked phenomenally well with a lot of our members. It's actually quite against the grain of many traditional job descriptions, job ads, I should be saying, job ad.
Yep.
Because what we're not looking for is, a boring job ad. We want to attract a high quality and volume of people, and then trim the fat from there so you get the best possible person. So the job ad is below that you can version for any position.
1000%. Awesome.
Nice. Thanks, man.
Let's cut it there.
Want to go more in depth on today's topic and buy back more time whilst earning more money? Get a free business health audit and plenty of free resources over on our website, theprofessionalbuilder.com.